I did not expect that I would have this experience of being called out. And I don't think that this person intentionally meant to call me out, but I had a question recently on my YouTube video for the podcast. If I could answer a question around burnout, if we could talk about burnout and talk about the unhidden patterns that often lead to burnout. And then I started researching and thinking and brainstorming, and I was like, oh, that's me. I am experiencing burnout. Welcome to Empowered Now. I'm your host, Colette Kati. Join me as we talk all things to uplift, encourage, teach, inspire, and empower you to see your best self, to live your best life, and to thrive wherever you are. All right, just to be clear and just to lay this out on the table so you can all see it clearly. You're not burnt out because you're weak. You're burnt out because you've been carrying too much for too long, and for whatever reason, you don't think you can put it down. And what I've noticed for myself as I have been, being a parent or being a mom, specifically, I'm speaking from a mom's perspective because that's what I am. I'm a mom. There's so many tabs open all the time. If you think of your brain and your world as the World Wide Web, you've got so many tabs open, and that's literal as well. I've got a lot of tabs open on my phone at all times. It makes my family laugh, like, Mom, why do you have so many tabs open? I'm like, I have many things happening in my brain and I've got to get them all done, doing all the things. And it's not easy to close those tabs. It's not easy to focus in and hone in on just one thing for too long, because there's always multiple things that need to be happening. And then you add in the business part of it. So if you are a mom or a parent that is also an entrepreneur, that adds a whole other level to what you're doing. And that's what I've been experiencing, is I've been able to kind of be in this mom place of, which is so busy. Sometimes people think moms that are just momming, that don't have other careers that they're doing, are somehow just like lazing about and relaxing through their day and enjoying their tea and their coffee and just enjoying life so pleasantly. No, that's not my experience. There's always stuff that needs to happen, people that need things. It's like there needs to be a home manager that's on call at all times for whatever reason to put out all the fires that happen figuratively and sometimes literally, as we have experienced in the last year. But there's not a way to not have a lot of responsibility as a parent or as a mom or as a mompreneur. Mompreneur. Yeah, that was fun. We'll not go there again. I can't say that word. It's just one of those things. So it's not that you are weak if you can't get it all done. I just want to lay that out because I know that there are so many moms out there, myself included. I have also been a victim to this mindset of thinking I've got to do it all and it's got to be perfect. And if I don't do it, who's going to do it? I'm not going to be able to say no to anything, because if I say no, who's going to show up? It has to be me. So there's this pattern, and these are kind of the blocks that can lead to burnout. Over responsibility, especially as a mom. We think we are totally responsible for all of the experiences that our children have or our partners, that we need to be not just their person to be here to help, schedule or keep their schedule straight, keep their meals made, make sure that they learn the things they need to learn, make sure that the chores are done and that the laundry's done, but they're also here for emotional support. We don't often talk about that emotional part of being a mom that is always on. Like, you are constantly on to be there, to be the listening ear, to be emotionally available for your children and what they're needing, which can also lead to this over responsibility, because we not only take on our children's emotions or listen to them, but we also make it our responsibility to make sure that they are fixed, right? That they don't have pain, that their emotions get resolved so that they can have happy lives. It's exhausting. Can we just say that? So when you think of all the pressures that it just takes to be a parent or a mom specifically, there's a lot that goes into that, right? And you do have to be on a lot of the time. And by on, I mean you're available, you're listening, you're engaged, you're present, you're either present with your children or you're present taking care of all of the needs behind the scenes so that when you are present with them, things are taken care of. And then you add in, if you are building a business, which is what I'm working on doing. Shay and I have had multiple businesses, but this is the first time I've actually taken my own career, my own skill set, and my own, platform to fully build this coaching business and podcasting and speaking all around like me and what I'm doing. And it's kind of scary because I'm really passionate about it. And it's another level of managing, being present, being on, and being forward thinking and forward facing and just in the thick of it. Like I am feeling like I am in the arena, not just as a mom, but as a entrepreneur. And it's not easy. It's kind of scary. And I'm definitely feeling the burnout. So there's this mental load of constantly being on and problem solving and anticipating needs and being forward thinking in everything that you're doing. And so it can be really easy to lose that sense of playfulness and that sense of rest, because I know for me that this is a pattern that I have where I'll feel guilty. I'll feel like, oh, well, I'm putting my needs first and I'm letting go of the planning and the anticipating and the taking care of. What's going to happen if I do that? I need to be on, I need to show up for people. And that can be really exhausting. And that leads into the, burnout isn't just overworking or overextending yourself physically. It is all encompassing, and it comes from our patterns. And that was the question that I received on YouTube. Can we talk more about the patterns that lead to burnout? Maybe the mental and emotional patterns that we develop that are leading us to choose burnout, because we are choosing it. I just want to make that clear too. Everything that we do, every pattern that we are kind of stuck in, we are in some way choosing it. We're continually choosing the pattern and the path that is leading us to the burnout, because there's something about our pattern and the path or the block that is trying to help us. So one really common pattern or block that leads to burnout is people pleasing. And this is an easy one for me to digest and show you kind of this route that we are taking into our own burnout, because it's really common. And I know a lot of people experience this dynamic of people pleasing. You might not call it that. It could look differently. Overwhelm, putting your business over your mental or physical needs, putting your children over your your mental and physical needs. Yes. So people pleasing. If you look at the pattern of people pleasing, there's a reason why people pleasing is trying to help you. And I talk about this with my clients all the time, where you can look at the pattern of people pleasing, and there's something about it. If you imagine it as just a pattern, it's outside of you. Maybe it's a friend sitting next to you in your chair or next to you in the car, This is my friend people pleasing right here. And I'm going to give her the name Penelope. Penelope, the people pleaser. You just imagine her as a separate entity than me. This is the pattern. I have invited her in and I have taken her along for the ride for most of my life. And she is my best friend. She is trying to help me. So if you can imagine, how is people pleasing? How is Penelope trying to help me? And I know we're getting playful. We're doing a little bit of, role playing, but it's really helpful to identify or unidentify with the pattern. Like, it's not you, it's just a pattern you've developed, but it is trying to help you in some way. So if I'm people pleasing and I am constantly choosing other people before myself and it's leading to burnout, there's something in the people pleasing that I think is important. And so I continue to do it so that I can receive a certain thing. And if you look at that for yourself, it helps to close your eyes and get present. And by the way, this is the first step in my everyday freedom formula, is really getting to know you, getting to understand what's making you tick. Why? Why is this happening? Why are you choosing this? And the way we do that is we get really present with what's happening, with what is going on in any given moment. Just like you can hear my dog snoring in this moment. Maybe you can't. I can. He's very loud. So if I'm people pleasing and I'm trying to help Colette, how might I be trying to help her? Well, if I have a limiting belief or a belief that if I put other people first, then they will be happy, then I will also be happy, because I get happy when I see the people around me happy. And this is a pattern because I identified my people-pleasing pattern has come from my childhood. Long before I was ever a mom, I developed that idea that I don't like seeing the people in my world suffer. And I know I've talked about this before with my mom being sick with cancer, but I didn't like seeing the people in my world suffer. I actually unpacked this a little bit more on the podcast I was on recently with Project Me with Tiffany Carter. And the chimes, Grandpa Eugene's clock is saying hello. You guys, I could, stop it, but I just love the way it rings through the house. Okay. So I developed this people-pleasing pattern because I saw how much my family was suffering when my mom was sick. And though we had a lot of happiness in our home, it was really painful to watch that low level of sadness just being there all the time. And so I remember feeling and thinking and developing that belief, or that taking on this responsibility, not because anybody gave it to me, but because I chose to take it on, that I need to make everyone happy. Because if they're happy, then I'll be happy. And that's how people pleasing is trying to help me. If we make them happy, then we get to be happy. I am trying to help you. Why are you trying to push me away? Right? So when we get really clear with our patterns and notice, okay, what is the pattern that is underneath the burnout? What am I choosing? And how is it trying to help me? What is it that I want that I am going outside to get? And I love talking about this stuff, and I know I can get really deep with it, but this is one of my favorite things that I have learned, because as you can sit with those patterns, that's what transforms them. So when we're talking about burnout, my pattern of people pleasing is what's leading to me constantly choosing other people and putting them first and doing and taking responsibility for their emotions and people pleasing all day long. And can you see how that would lead to burnout? Let's look at perfectionism. Perfectionism is another block or a tool that our brains think that we need to have in order to get something within. So think about perfectionism. If I'm a perfectionist and I need everything to look a certain way I need to be seen a certain way. I need to show up a certain way in order to be validated, in order to be valued, in order to be worthy. That perfectionism is trying to help me feel what? It's trying to help me get what? Help me feel loved, help me feel valued and validated, so I can have this perfect picture of myself. And if people see me perfectly, then I will know that I'm enough because I now am perfect. And I know that it sounds ridiculous when we're saying it, but we develop these patterns, and that's often the internal patterns that are acting out, I guess, sound a little bit ridiculous. They're coming from a younger version of ourselves, because that's often where we developed it. Like our adult minds are like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I know that that's silly to expect that if I look perfect, then everything will be fine. I know that's not true, but there's something about the pattern that we're still doing because there's a piece of that belief in there, and it's been there for a while. That's why I love this work, because we get to explore it and we get to finally acknowledge, oh, that pattern of perfectionism, even though it doesn't make sense, I recognize I'm doing it. Now what? Now what do I get to do with it? And also, you can see how it would lead to burnout, right? If I'm constantly trying to look perfect and show up as the best version of myself every time, all the time. And by the way, perfectionism will also say that the best version of you still isn't enough, right? It's a never ending. It's a constant battle and a hustle and a climbing and a grasping. That perfectionism is exhausting. And I should know I have that pattern in me that I get to work with, because it still shows up, and it's shown up now as I am now launching my coaching business online, and I'm showing up as a different version of myself, one that I'm super proud of, but also this is new and it's scary. And there's often that idea that, oh, this needs to look a certain way and I have to show up a certain way and I can't make any mistakes, because if a coach makes a mistake, then how is she valid? And like, I know that that's silly, but that's the perfectionism. That's the perfectionist talking. And that's my little prissy perfectionist talking. And so I know I really get long-winded with this stuff, and I love it. Okay. What do we do with this burnout and these patterns when it starts to show up? I think it's really helpful if we can acknowledge burnout as a signal. It's not a weakness. It's just a signal showing us that there's something deeper happening, and that maybe it's time to pay attention to that deeper desire of our pattern that is causing us to choose burnout. Maybe you've been in survival mode. Maybe you have been performing instead of being playful or showing up as being present. Maybe you've been in that performance mode. Maybe you've been like me, where you are giving so much more than you're receiving. And by the way, it's so common for us to often, when we get into this pattern of pouring out and giving, when we actually receive, there's a guilt that comes from that, because our patterns of perfectionism or people pleasing or whatever it might be, it could be overwhelm and procrastination. Like, there's many patterns that could be attached to this burnout cycle. Because if you're procrastinating, think about that. If you're procrastinating, that's also a sign. Well, it's often procrastination can be a sign of a deeper issue, but procrastination is like the forward facing block that shows up around it. Like, there's a fear, so that we continue to procrastinate because we're afraid that if we show up as ourselves, that will be rejected. Like, that's often a procrastination tactic. Anyways, where was I? All right, back to this pattern of overgiving and not being able to receive. This was the pattern that I often am in. That's one of my go-to patterns that comes up for me. It's amazing how much the best friend of guilt can show up with that. When we start to receive, or when we have the opportunity to receive, so often this feeling of guilt can come up. And I would love for us to acknowledge this guilt, because it shows up virtually with every client that I have worked with. Guilt is riding shotgun. Guilt is there as a bestie that is like, listen, I am going to let you know that you don't deserve to have what you want, because if you get what you want, then that means somebody out there is not getting what they want. That if you receive, that somehow you're taking away from somebody else, and we're not going to do that. You see? Can you see that pattern? And guilt is there trying to make sure that you show up for the people in your world, because there's a negative belief there that if I show up for myself, then I'm not showing up for the people in my world. And I should feel bad about that. Right? And that's the limiting belief. It's a yes and though. Is it really true? And can we question that? Is it really true that if I show up for myself, that I'm not showing up for the people in my world? Is that actually true? And remember the saying around boundaries, that it's only the people that are upset when you start to have boundaries and choose yourself are those that are benefiting from you not having any. And by the way, benefiting is a very broad term, because even those that are benefiting from you not having boundaries are not really thriving, because their pattern of taking is overdeveloped or it's like overactive, and that's not helping them. So you actually creating boundaries and learning to choose yourself is helping teach the people in your world to be able to start to show up for themselves in a different way, instead of expecting you to show up in every single way. Can you see it? I would love to hear your comments. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please comment below and let me know if you're seeing this pattern, if you're having any aha moments, because this is the kind of stuff that when you start to get it, when your brain starts to make those connections, it's like, oh, okay, I've been seeing it wrong this whole time. And not wrong, I would say, but in an unhelpful way. There's a lot of different ways to look at things, and it's pretty powerful when you can start to see how your patterns have been contributing to your pain. And that's the kind of stuff we get to change. We can't change if somebody makes a terrible choice that hurts us, but we get to choose what we do with that. And we get to choose what patterns we acknowledge and what patterns we are able to be with. So these light bulbs are going off in your head, and you're realizing, I'm actually contributing to my pain here. And some of us don't want to see that, because it's easier to see how something else or somebody else is creating this pain. But when you can acknowledge and see that, oh, this is actually in my power, and then you bring compassion and acceptance to it. Like, yes, I see now how this pattern that I've created, and maybe I created it because of somebody else and their actions, and that's fine, and that's theirs. But you and how you are showing up in the world using the pattern, that's yours. That's yours. And that's what you get to change. That's what you get to go in and reframe and rewire and basically get a whole makeover inside so that you can start living life from a place of, I'm choosing my patterns now. I get to acknowledge and be with those patterns so that now I can show up differently. It might not even change what you do, but your intention and the energy behind what you do is different now because you have done that deeper work. So what I wanted to share with you is an experience that our client of mine experienced recently, an experience of feeling guilt, which is, again, so common. It comes up, and that's what kicks us back into our patterns. Maybe we can acknowledge, oh, I recognize that I am people pleasing right now, and I'm going to try not to do that. And then guilt will show up and be like, no, girl, you get in there and you people please. That's your job. And then you continue on the pattern. Guilt often is it's trying to help you not break out of your patterns that you've been in for your whole life. It's trying to keep you in your pattern. That's what guilt's there for. And we're not going to judge it. We're just going to acknowledge, oh, okay, I see you, guilt. And I recognize you're not really effective for me anymore. That's not the way I want to see it now. So this client of mine had an experience where she often shows up with over responsibility in her life and for her family, and recognized that she was getting a headache and feeling really terrible. The kind of headaches that lead to migraines, and which is often a symptom of burnout, which we know is a symptom of a deeper pattern. So if you're a person that gets migraines a lot, it could be related to the stress that is coming into your world based on the patterns that you're holding on to. So just side note, but she was acknowledging like, oh, I'm getting a headache and I really need to rest if I'm going to be able to show up for my friend that is having this event tonight. I really want to be there for. And so her old pattern would be to power through, to continue taking care of everybody at home, working really hard to make sure that nobody at home suffered, making sure meals were ready, making sure the dog was walked, and then still powering through and showing up for her friend that night, exhausted, burnt out completely. But she didn't do that. Instead, she said, you know what? I really need help today. I'm not feeling well. I'm going to go rest. Could you please take care of walking the dogs, getting the meals, and taking care of things so that I can rest? And so she did that. And she put the responsibility on her family to take care of things, and then went to rest. So what's the typical pattern, right? The typical pattern will be, nope, guilt's showing up. No, you can't ask the people in your world to do that. That's not fair. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That's your job. Anybody else feel that? Our little patterns can be bullies. They can be little bullies. Just trying to help us out, right? So what my client said was that she felt guilt come in, and because we had been working together, she was able to sit with the guilt and just, instead of reacting from the guilt, like feeling that discomfort of, oh no, like, oh, that pit in your stomach, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, maybe I should show up for them, maybe I should do that. Instead of running with the mind and letting guilt just take over her mind, she sat with that feeling and noticed, okay, I'm feeling guilt right now. And as she sat with it, it only took a few seconds for her to realize, that's kind of silly that I'm thinking that. It's totally okay for the people in my world to help me. It's fine. And because she was willing to sit with the guilt for a minute, and sometimes it takes longer, but really in my experience, it doesn't take very long for us to really be with that presence of guilt. And then she was able to let go of the guilt and relax and rest. And then she was able to wake up and show up for her friend that night at her event. And it's a simple, simple, simple thing. But the willingness that we have to be with what comes up is the power. presence and acceptance, and just being willing to sit with the discomfort, being willing to sit with our thoughts and question them. It's powerful stuff. And I just want to make sure that we all get that when we're in a pattern of burnout, it's not because we're just overworked. It's because there's a deeper pattern running and it's trying to help you, but it's just not effective anymore. Maybe it's worked for a long time, but it's not effective anymore. And it's time to question it. It's time to acknowledge it, time to question it, and time to give it space to be seen and heard, and then it magically lets go of us. It's a powerful process, and I would love to facilitate anyone who wants to experience this in a private coaching setting. I do have spaces available and open right now. It is by application only, and only for a select few that are ready for the coaching that I have available. So I'll leave the link in my show notes so you can check that out if you are interested. And before I close this episode out, I would love to leave you with a few questions to kind of get your brain going and help you to acknowledge maybe some things that might be patterns for you or things that you might want to change. So the first question is, where am I believing that I have to be everything for everyone? And by where, I'm thinking in what area of your life. Where am I believing that I have to be everything for everyone? And where did I first think that? Where did that idea first come into my mind? And I invite you, when you're asking these questions, don't just think with your brain, think with your heart. Like, put your hand on your heart and just kind of ask your body, when's the first time I thought that? And you don't have to make that deep. Just notice the first thing that comes up for you. Second question, what would it look like to give myself permission to rest, even if nothing else gets done? What would it look like to give myself permission to rest, even if nothing else gets done? And what comes up for you when you think about that? I know sometimes, like, wait, what? No, I can't do that. Then this won't get done, and this won't get done, and this won't get done. Just ask yourself, what would that look like? And could you stomach it? Because these are really important questions to ask, because it will kick up stuff if you're not able to do it. Okay, the last question. What would it look like if I were to prioritize play before work? I don't know. Think about it. I would love to hear any answers to these questions that you may have. Please leave them in the comments in the YouTube video for this episode. And I also want to just leave with you this moment to take a deep breath in. And maybe for now, offer yourself permission to stop overfunctioning, to stop taking over responsibility for everyone and everything else. You're only responsible for one person's needs, and that's yours. And when you meet those ones first, the other ones will fall into place as they should. All right. I love you guys. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you on next week's episode. Mwah. Happy underfunctioning. Happy giving yourself grace. Happy giving yourself permission to not overfunction. Okay, love you. Bye. This is Burnout speaking. You must not stop. You must keep going. Sorry, that is not helpful. Hey, we gotta laugh it off a little bit, right? How can we get rid of these patterns if we're taking ourselves too seriously? Seriously, we're not gonna do that. Okay, love you. Bye. Bong, bong. Thanks for watching Empowered Now. If anything you heard today resonated with you and you want more, please like and subscribe so that you won't miss an upload. You can also follow me on social media at Colette Kati. And if you're interested in working with me more closely through coaching or other opportunities, go to my website, ColetteKati.com. It is my hope that you will continue to come back and experience for yourself the benefits of choosing an empowered life. Your feedback and your experience are very important to me, so please take a moment to connect with me in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on today's episode, ideas for future topics, and ideas for guests that you would like to see. And as always, thanks for your time, support, and your courage to live empowered now.